Genesis chapter 7 opens with God speaking directly to Noah, saying, "Go into the ark, you and your whole family, because I have found you righteous in this generation." God gives Noah precise instructions for the ark's construction, its length, width, and height, ensuring it will withstand the coming deluge. Take with you 7 pairs of every kind of clean animal, a male and its mate, and 1 pair of every kind of unclean animal, God instructs, emphasizing the preservation of life. Noah obeys, gathering his family and the animals as God commanded, demonstrating faith and obedience. Then, as the 7th day arrives, the floodwaters of judgment are unleashed upon the earth. The fountains of the great deep burst forth, and the floodgates of the heavens are opened, just as Genesis describes. Torrents of rain fall for 40 days and 40 nights, covering even the highest mountains. The waters rise, lifting the ark and carrying it safely above the devastation below. Every living thing outside the ark perishes, a solemn act of divine judgment. Yet within the ark, God's mercy preserves Noah, his family, and the creatures with them. Genesis 7 stands as a testament to both the seriousness of judgment and the promise of salvation for those who trust and obey. The story's stark simplicity is matched by its profound message, divine justice, and the hope of a new beginning. Before we continue our journey through the story of the flood, don't forget to hit the subscribe button and turn on notifications. Join our community for more insightful biblical documentaries, deep dives into ancient history, and thought-provoking explorations of faith. Subscribe now to never miss a story. For believers in Judaism, Christianity, and Islam, Genesis chapter 7 is a pivotal moment in the biblical story, a turning point where divine judgment and mercy intersect. In Judaism, the flood is seen as both a consequence of human corruption and a prelude to God's covenant with Noah. "I will establish my covenant with you," Genesis 6:18. For Christians, Genesis 7 foreshadows themes of salvation and baptism. The Apostle Peter writes, "In it only a few people, 8 in all, were saved through water," 1 Peter 3:20. In Islam, the Quran recounts Noah as a prophet who calls his people to righteousness, and the flood as a sign of God's justice and mercy. "We delivered him and those with him in the ark," Quran 21:76. Across these faiths, the flood is not just a story of destruction, but of renewal, a divine reset that leads to a new covenant, symbolized by the rainbow in Genesis 9:13. Theologically, Genesis 7 is interpreted as a profound lesson in justice, grace, and the seriousness of covenant. God's promise to never again destroy the earth by flood. Noah's obedience, highlighted in Genesis 7:5, Noah did all that the Lord commanded him, is celebrated as a model of faithfulness. The ark itself becomes a symbol of refuge and salvation, echoed in Christian baptism and in Jewish and Islamic traditions as a vessel of deliverance. Scholars and historians, meanwhile, analyze Genesis 7 as ancient literature, exploring its structure, language, and parallels with other flood myths. Some see it as a foundational myth, others as a record of a real event, and many as a story layered with theological meaning. Scientific perspectives raise questions about the plausibility of a global flood, but the story's enduring power lies in its spiritual and moral lessons. Whether read as history, allegory, or sacred myth, Genesis 7 continues to inspire reflection on justice, faith, and the hope of renewal, a story that bridges faith, history, and science. The story of a world-destroying flood appears in many ancient cultures, but the account in Genesis stands apart in profound ways. Across the globe, civilizations from Mesopotamia to India, Greece to the Americas, preserve tales of catastrophic floods in their sacred texts and oral traditions. The Epic of Gilgamesh from ancient Mesopotamia tells of Utnapishtim, warned by the god Ea to build a boat and save life from a divine deluge. In these stories, the gods act out of frustration or whim, annoyed by human noise or seeking to reset creation. The Genesis account, however, centers on moral corruption and violence as the reason for the flood, introducing a profound ethical dimension. Unlike other myths, Genesis concludes with a covenant. God promises never again to destroy the earth by flood, sealing this vow with the sign of a rainbow. This unique ending transforms the flood from a tale of destruction into a story of hope, renewal, and divine faithfulness. Other cultures, like the Greeks with Deucalion and Pyrrha, or the Hindus with Manu, echo the theme of survival and rebirth, but without the Genesis covenant's promise. Indigenous peoples of the Americas, Australia, and the Pacific also tell of great floods, each with their own lessons and warnings. Scholars debate whether these stories reflect memories of real disasters like post-Ice Age sea level rise or universal human anxieties about nature's power. Yet, the Genesis flood stands out for its moral message, its vision of a just God, and its promise of mercy, a narrative that continues to shape faith and imagination. In the tapestry of world myth, Genesis 7 is both a reflection of shared human fears and a beacon of hope, reminding us of the possibility of new beginnings. In our fast-paced digital world, Genesis chapter 7 continues to resonate, not merely as an ancient story, but as a profound theological reflection on the nature of God and humanity. Its flood narrative, still heard in pulpits and study circles, invites us to wrestle with questions of justice, mercy, and the hope of renewal. The flood is not just a tale of destruction, but a living text, explored by scholars and believers alike for its layered meanings. Biblical scholarship reveals how the waters symbolize both judgment and cleansing, while the ark becomes a vessel of salvation, prefiguring themes later echoed in Christian baptism and the life of Christ. Noah, described as righteous and obedient, is often seen as a type of Christ, one who, through faithfulness, becomes the means by which life is preserved. The ark, sheltering all within from the chaos outside, points to the promise of refuge found in God's covenant, a theme that echoes through both Jewish and Christian traditions. The covenant God establishes after the flood, sealed with the sign of the rainbow, marks a turning point in the biblical story. It is a promise of mercy, a commitment to creation, and a call for human responsibility. The flood narrative thus challenges us to reflect on our stewardship of the world and our relationships with one another. For faith communities today, Genesis 7 is a wellspring of spiritual insight. Its story of judgment and deliverance inspires hope, resilience, and a renewed sense of purpose, reminding us that after every storm, the possibility of new beginnings remains. The flood's waters may have receded, but its lessons endure, reminding us of the delicate balance between divine judgment and mercy, and the enduring invitation to walk in faith and obedience. From sanctuaries to classrooms, Genesis 7 continues to challenge, comfort, and connect us, its ancient words sailing on, inviting every generation to discover anew the depths of God's character and the call to faithful living. The relevance of Genesis 7 endures, reminding us that stories of hope, judgment, and redemption are never out of date, but continue to shape our understanding of God, ourselves, and the world we share. If you enjoyed this documentary, please subscribe for more insightful content and biblical explorations.